it's Erica. Welcome back to Maniacal Reader. Today I'm doing my July wrap-up. I read 7 books in July. The first book I read was Thrive by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is a book in the Addicted series. It's a new adult romance series. This book follows Lily and Lo over a 2-year period. The events in this book are a lot similar to the events in Kiss the Sky and Hot House Flower, which I found out from reading those books last month. But this book is just from Lily and Lo's perspective during that time, so it was interesting for me to read, even though it was a bridge book. I believe I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, which is really good. I enjoy Lily and Lo's perspective. They're my favorite couple in the Addicted series. The next book I read was Addicted After All. This is the next book that follows Thrive. And this is the final book that covers Lily and Lo's story. In this book, we see a lot of maturation between the two characters, and Lo and Lily have come a long way from their troubled beginnings. A lot changes in their relationship for the better, and they become more positive people. It was also nice to see how gentle Lo treated Lily during her pregnancy, especially since she had an overactive sex drive. It was interesting to see their dynamic in this book and have everything come to a close on their journey. They're a great couple, and they're one of my favorite couples of all time. Next up, I have Fuel the Fire. This is the second book that follows Rose and Connor's romance. Rose and Connor got married. This book shows their married life and how they interact with each other. There's also a secret from Connor's past that threatens to unravel the stability of his family. So it's interesting to see how he handles this challenge and how he tries to protect his family and that he'll do anything to protect them. This is the last book that follows Rose and Connor's story. I did enjoy this book, but Rose and Connor are not my favorite couple, so I would say that this book is my least favorite overall in the series. But I still gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, since I really like Connor and Rose individually as characters. After reading Fuel the Fire, I felt like I needed to take a small break from the Addicted series and the Calloway Sisters series, so I ended up rereading Hatred Day by T.S. Pettibone. This is a young adult science fiction dystopian series, and Hatred Day is the first book. I've talked about this book a lot on my channel, but if you haven't heard of this book is set in the year 2052. Humanity is united against this extraterrestrial species called Inborns, whose arrival on Earth has brought environmental and biological crises. Inborns have godlike intelligence and abilities. We follow the main character named Snowford Yugami, and her city has become the center of this interspecies war between humans and Inborns. Snowford is rejected by humans and Inborns alike. She has no choice but to make a deal with the commander. He promises her freedom and wealth and a way to keep her family safe if she joins him on this hunt to kill this mysterious creature called the Whelks. I'm not going to say much about this book since it's best going in blind, but I do have a review of this book, which should be coming soon. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really loved it. After reading Hatred Day, I went back to the Addicted series and Calloway Sisters series, and I read Long Way Down. This is the second last book in the series, and it follows Daisy and Reich's romance. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because it was just incredible. In this book, Daisy and Reich become engaged near the beginning of this book, but they also have huge challenges when it comes to having children. I found that this book was the hardest to get through. I would say that this book was really good, but it was deeply emotional, and at times it was hard for me to get through because it was that heart-wrenching. I liked seeing how they supported each other through all their struggles. This was definitely a 5 out of 5 star book for me because it was amazing. Definitely one of my favorites in the series overall. Besides the main plot, there's also a side plot with Reich and a friend in this book, which I thought was deeply emotional as well. After reading the emotional turmoil that was Long Way Down, I finally got to Some Kind of Perfect, which is the final book in the Addicted and Calloway Sisters series. Now, Long Way Down did have an epilogue, but Some Kind of Perfect just gives you more of that finality and closure to the series. In this book, all of the characters have children, so it's nice to see how each couple parents their children differently and how no matter what kind of circumstances their children experience, they're always there to support them and to support each other as parents. What's interesting about this book is that the book is told from all 6 of the characters' perspectives, and we haven't had a book in this series that's told from all 6 perspectives, which I enjoyed. You can probably guess which parts of the book I enjoyed the most, and that was Lily and Lo's perspectives, since they're my favorite couple in the series. It was interesting to see Rose and Connor as parents, and Reich and Daisy as parents. I think it was more amusing for me to see Reich and Daisy as parents, just to see how far they've come, considering that they've struggled a lot, that they can still have humor and happiness in their lives. That was good to see. I also liked seeing how all of the children interact with each other and that they can each depend on each other. I was most intrigued by Maximoff Hale. Maximoff is the oldest child of all of them. It was interesting to see what he discovers about his parents and his parents' past and everything they've experienced. It was nice to see how he interprets his parents' pasts, with them being addicts, and how he understands them as people. I found that to be illuminating and a very good part in the book. I cannot stress enough how much I liked this series. This new adult series will definitely go down in the history books for me as one of my favorite series of all time. I love these characters to death, and I will definitely be rereading this series in the future. Krista and Becca Ritchie know emotional stories and romance so well that they've crafted a beautiful and wonderful series that's filled with a lot of tears and heartache. It's also filled with a lot of happiness and joy once you realize all the struggles that all of the characters have overcome. It's definitely a masterpiece, and this is definitely one of my favorite series. After The Whirlwind, that was the Addicted series and Calloway Sisters series. I originally planned to read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, but I was desperate to move on to something new. So I ended up picking up a book that I was planning to read in August. That book is Nightshade by Andrea Kramer. This is the first book in a YA paranormal fantasy trilogy. It's one of the trilogies on my reading goals for 2016, but unfortunately this book just ended up being a big disappointment. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. This trilogy follows the character named Kala, who is half human, half werewolf. She's a guardian, and her purpose is to guard sacred sites for these people called the Keepers. Kala is also destined to marry another half werewolf, half human called Ren LaRoche. But when she saves the life of a human named Shay Doran, she is inexplicably drawn to him for some reason and can't get him out of her mind. The reason I gave this book 2 stars is because Kala seems one-dimensional. I wasn't really attached to her as a character, and she seemed so wishy-washy when it came to her feelings for Shay and her feelings for Ren. Since she's destined to mate with Ren, she wants to keep that commitment even though she's attracted to Shay. Also, the Keepers run the lives of these werewolf guardians, so Kala doesn't really have choices in her life of who she's going to end up with. Even though there were twists in this book, at most points the plot seemed predictable and I could see twists like any of the supporting characters, like Cala's other packmates and her friend named Bryn, and also her brother. None of the characters seemed appealing to me, and I found myself fighting to get through this story. I didn't really like it at all. So that's why I only gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. It was an okay book for me. I definitely won't be continuing on with the trilogy. I unfortunately ran out of time, and I didn't get a chance to read Anna and the French Kiss, but I'll definitely be reading it next month in August. That's it for my July wrap-up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!